Oh, there we go. Okay, how does that look? I think that looks good. Hi, Bon. Good evening, everyone. So, I'm starting a little early today just because I almost fell asleep and I don't want to stay up too late. Thank you, thank you. Is the sound not too bad? I I listened to the other weeks and I noticed that the rain was like drowning everything else out. These sound levels are super hard to figure out, in my opinion. Yay! So, you might see my models a little different. My tracking was improved by a wonderful person on Fiverr. Oh my gosh, I cannot thank them enough for doing the ARKit tracking because this stuff is difficult to do, especially if the model's not set up for it. And look at my nails. I got some nails this time. Fiverr's the best. Honestly, I could not imagine what other site to go to get this kind of thing done. Okie dokie. Let's see, what's going on? Gwen did his first stream yesterday. I know, Bon, you were there. A couple other people were there. That was fun. Playing Armored Core. Lots of fun. A little too much moving around for me. Let me update the book title while I chat a little. Chaos is always good. Chaos is always the best. Honestly, if you're not causing chaos in a stream, are you really enjoying the stream? Okay. In the bottom right-hand corner, I'm putting the light novel that I'm reading. So what I'm going to do, I'm on J Novel Club, and I'm going to read a handful of different novels, just kind of the first couple chapters that I can get access to. 'Cause variety's fun, right? I know you're always causing some chaos. Let me see if I can move my hand tracker.
Wonder Esmer is now followed.
Thank you for the follow. Oh, that's good to know that I have 3 alerts on. So I just turned one off. I am a professional streamer. I know what I'm doing. I I don't know what I'm doing. I have so many sources on my OBS that I don't know where anything is. I know, I know. Okay, one complaint that I do have is why does Twitch immediately try to throw an ad? This hand is trying to fix the microphone.
Wonder Esmer
Here, we're
is
gonna.
now followed.
Okay, there we go. We got the right alerts this time. Yay! The hand is going to grab you. Oh, can I can get this to work, I promise. Nope, I can just break tracking. Come on, come on. I'll pull out the better tracking for a different stream. It just takes a little bit to get set up. There we go. See, I can touch you. Let's see. Is that better? I can touch your screen. Oh. Okay, I'm getting distracted. I'm going to start with the reading. Let me change this to a different background noise. How about... Okay, that's probably too loud. Okay. Can you still hear it? You should be hearing some nice ocean waves. Good night, Bon Bon. Have a lot of sweet dreams. And I'm glad you're going to bed earlier than you did yesterday. Okay. I turned it up a little bit, so maybe that'll be a little better. Only 2:30, she says. Only 2:30 in the morning. Oh my goodness. Yeah, go to bed. Sweet dreams. Okay. So the first book I'm going through today is called Prison Life is Easy for a Villainess. So these are all going to be Japanese novels, light novels. And I think we get a few chapters for each sample that we get access to. So let's get started. So first chapter is The Young Lady is Sent to Prison. Up until this very moment, guests of the royal family had been enjoying a lively evening party. However, every attendee soon fell silent as the prince abruptly declared he was breaking off his engagement. In the middle of the luxurious banquet hall, a dignified young man with golden locks cascading down his shoulders stood with his arms crossed. He was the king's eldest son, Prince Elliot. Behind him stood a darling young lady, her red hair styled in pigtails. She wrapped her arms around the prince, and they both fixed their eyes on a young lady as the prince's associates dragged her in front of them. She was a demure girl, and she maintained her composure even in this situation, quietly allowing the prince's associates to pull her forward. Her name was Rachel, and she was the eldest daughter of Duke Ferguson, and now the prince's ex-fiancée. Elliot shifted to stand in front of the young lady with the red hair, as if to protect her. She quivered behind him. He glared at Rachel as his associates restrained her. Rachel, if you have even a shred of decency, then apologize to Margaret, Elliot said in a tone both critical and sharp. The game is up, you witch, cried Sykes Abigail, the knight captain's son, as he twisted Rachel's arms. We know you're the one who provoked the other ladies of the court. Oop, boop, boop. Let me silence that. Okay, I think that should be it. Even Rachel's brother, George Ferguson, joined in and denounced her. Please, sister, just be honest and confess your crimes. How much longer will you continue to drag the Ferguson name through mud? Unfazed by their abuse, Rachel looked back at the prince, her expression cold. I've done no such thing. There's no reason I should apologize to your girlfriend. Rachel was a beautiful woman with dark brown hair that she kept tied up and clear, with pale skin. Her almond-shaped eyes, a deep cobalt blue, shone with intelligence. Her lips were a light pink. The dress she wore was simple, and the color was subdued, a demonstration of class rather than gaudiness. Her whole appearance gave off an air of maturity, and though she was the same age as Elliot, her reserved manner and plain appearance made her seem years older than him. Rachel repeated her denial in a quiet tone that fit her image perfectly. Compared to the prince, who had spoken in anger, her attitude lent her words a certain gravitas. The prince found that infuriating. In fact, one of the things that irritated Elliot the most was that she was acting no different than usual. Why is she so defiant, he thought. Rachel was reserved, and she rarely, if ever, asserted herself. She was a model lady, there to support the men, which is probably why she'd been chosen as the prince's fiancée. But despite her unassertive demeanor, she would still chide Elliot for his lack of composure. Because of that, Elliot's heart had drifted away from her. Or rather, he'd never managed to grow fond of her due to her attitude towards him. She always treated him like a child who needed reprimanding. Conversely, Elliot's response was evidence that he still had a lot of maturing to do. I'm going to take a sip. I'm going to move my something on the mic really quick because I don't want to hit it. Oh. Oh, geez, I'm a terrible streamer. I just kind of went live and went straight for it without even telling anybody that I went live. Let me do that really quick. See, I told you all, I am a professional streamer. I do stuff great. A plus. I'm really good at this. Honestly, I stream once a week, so that's obviously me needing a little more practice, but it's okay. We're not here to feel sad about it. Okay. Well, that was actually right on time because right now there is an ad. So that works for me. Okay. Welcome back from ads. Let's get back into the story. She always treated him like a child who needed reprimanding. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for the follow, Susa81. I'm glad that you've stumbled upon my very professional book reading stream. Hi, Nox. Oh, it's a cute little fox. Oh, butcha, 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 butcha. Okay, I promise, back to book. Conversely, Elliot's response was evidence that he had a lot of maturing to do. Oh, thank you for continuing the gift sub. Elliot had always felt that Rachel was in his way, and now she had allegedly harmed the young lady he loved most of all. Okay, I can whack it for you. he had a strong desire to punish his ex-fiancée for refusing to apologize. Enough, Elliot yelled. Rachel, it seems I was wrong to give you a chance to reflect on your actions. The prince gestured with his chin, and Sykes began dragging Rachel off to the dungeon. Life is long, Rachel. Do enjoy your time in prison. He saw Rachel's lips twist at his mocking tone, her first real reaction. However, it wasn't the look of disgrace that he was hoping for, but an ironic smile. So you'll find, so just to give some context, this is an Otome setting. So this is kind of like the medieval European kind of dealio. And how this started off with the breaking off of the engagement is a very stereotypical Otome trope where all of the love interests will come together at a ball and they will protect the heroine and go basically look down upon the villainess for whatever she did against the heroine. But here's the twist on it. She is happy to go. Oh, I will, Your Highness. This is a rare opportunity, so I intend to enjoy it at my leisure. This was an unusual show of emotion, a look of scorn, from the Duke's daughter who was known for her placidity. But before the prince could dwell on what it meant, Sykes dragged Rachel from the banquet hall. Rachel stared coldly at her fiancé as he arrogantly spouted his faulty logic. This guy is utterly hopeless. It was said that men were slower to develop mentally in childhood, but even taking that into account, Elliot was still far too dull. He was nearly an adult, and he was acting like this? Rachel could do nothing but sigh. The idea that she would go out of her way to harass an inconsequential girl was absurd. It galled her that he thought she had that much time on her hands. Her supposed crime was risible, and the way he condemned her with that serious look made her want to laugh out loud. Did he have even the slightest conception of how difficult the education was for someone who was going to marry into the royal family? Did these people even have brains at all? Hydrate. In all honesty, Rachel had no particular desire to marry Prince Elliot, nor did she especially want to become queen. She was merely doing her duty as a daughter of a ducal family. Why did she have to fight over this nitwit with a woman she barely knew? A woman who'd concocted this infantile scheme. Rachel had only played the role of fiancée out of a sense of familial obligation, and she was already sick and tired of this ridiculous farce. In fact, She was ready to throw everything away out of sheer apathy. A snide voice brought out her thoughts. Ooh. Brought her out of her thoughts. Life is long, Rachel. Do enjoy your time in prison. When that talentless prince uttered those uninspiring words, with his inflated self-importance, Rachel could no longer hold her poker face. She cracked a smile. Oh, I will, Your Highness. This is a rare opportunity, so I intend to enjoy it at my leisure. Oh, forget my noble duties. Who cares what happens to this buffoon? The prince was reveling in what he thought was a sudden announcement, but Rachel had already heard of his plan from multiple sources. She hadn't expected to play out exactly as her informants had said, though. Still, he had torn up their engagement, so it looked like her preparations wouldn't go to waste. Elliot was so predictable that Rachel couldn't stop the little smile that slipped onto her lips. When she caught herself nearly grinning, she relaxed her face and kept it as expressionless as possible as Sykes dragged her away. The prince had kindly given the order. Now she was going to forget about all her lessons and enjoy herself. Rachel was actually a little excited for this new lifestyle. Shut away in the disused dungeons beneath the palace, without the rigorous requirements of a future queen, without a schedule planned down to the minute, without a head maid to complain when she took a nap, or a tutor to strike her pointer when she slocked off to read books. She would have all the time in the world. Tea time would be any time she pleased. If she wanted to, she could sleep the day away without anyone getting upset. It would be a slow prison life where she could amuse herself to her heart's content. Fighting the urge to start skipping, Rachel trudged out of the hall with heavy feet that belied her actual feelings. I'm going to take a quick moment for a breather. A breather and a hydrate. So anyone who might have joined a little later, we are going through an experience that this quote unquote villainess is having. Her engagement broken off. And frankly, she's being sent to the prison. There we go. Chapter 2. The young lady shuts herself in the prison. Hearing the sound of footsteps on the stone stairs, the prison guard on patrol in the dungeon looked up. In the flickering light of a lantern, he could see a well-built young man pulling along a girl. Her clothes were fine, yet she was bound with ropes. Just as the guard was thinking that they made an odd couple, the young man yelled at him. "Are you the prison guard?" Sykes arrogantly asked. "Yes, sir, I am." The guard had no idea what was going on as he watched Sykes, having reached the basement, untie the girl and shove her from behind. "Throw this wretch into a cell." Prince Elliot commands it. "We haven't decided when we'll release her yet. I guess that will depend on how well she reflects on her actions." "Ah, is that right?" the guard said rather unenthusiastically. Sykes scowled. "What?" "You see, about the prison." Sykes followed the guard's line of sight and realized that the jail had been converted into a storage closet. "What is this?" he exclaimed, caught off guard. Various sized wooden boxes were piled up inside the prison. Near the back, they rose almost all the way to the ceiling. They took up more than half the cell, although it wasn't clear what was inside them. "Well, some bureaucrats happened to come by here just this afternoon, and they said they needed to temporarily store some things they no longer needed in here," the guard explained. He scratched his head awkwardly as Sykes stared in blank amazement. "We rarely use the palace dungeon, you know. I would have never expected a guest to stay here so soon." "Why do they have to be using it as a glorified closet now?" Sykes lamented. "Well, it's the first time seeing this happen too, but we so rarely use the cells that there wasn't any reason to refuse." Sykes clicked his tongue. So the bureaucrats had brought in some documents or something that needed to be sorted somewhere, right? The timing was poor, but he could see that there was still sufficient space between the cell door and the toilet. "Fine. That would be enough for Rachel to lie down." I'm just turning off hand tracking because it doesn't look like it's working too well right now. There we go. There we go. No more awkward hand tracking. It is what it is. Just throw the switch in here. And I don't want any lip from you about it being too crowded. Be grateful you're not sharing a room with the criminal. "I understand," said Rachel meekly. Sykes motioned to the prison guard with his chin. The guard opened the cell door, which was at one end of the iron bars, with his key. Having figured out the situation, the guard's smile turned scummy. "A well-to-do lady like yourself may find this place a little creepy. But, well, they say a man's home is his castle, right? Give it a week and you'll settle right in. Try to think of it as a unique inn and enjoy yourself. Not that I know how many years you'll be here." Rachel listened to the guard's intimidating spiel, which he'd likely plucked right out of the manual, and silently walked through the door. The guard closed the door behind her and locked it. Then he rattled the door to ensure that it was completely secure, as was tradition. The guard smirked at her as she quietly sat down inside the cell. If you're going to cry to somebody important for help, you'd best do it early. For your own good, you know? This underground prison is rarely used these days. It's not easy to find either, and I tend to forget who's down here. Sykes laughed. The man has a point. His Highness wants to forget about you and have a good time with Margaret. I'd suggest you bow your head down to him before he forgets that we threw you in here. Sykes and the guard turned to leave, laughing scornfully at the dim-witted fool of a girl. They left behind the Duke's daughter, crushed by what had happened to her. Or so they thought. Just as Sykes and the prison guard were about to ascend the stairs, rattle, rattle, ka-chunk. Ka-chunk? Sykes muttered, mimicking what he'd heard. Both him and the guard turned towards the strange noises. Rachel had been sitting there, dejectedly, but now she was wrapping a large chain around the door and the metal bars. Then she put a padlock on it. She put a chain around her bars and she locked herself in. This was her moment, the moment she could strike back and harass them. Oh? The guard blurted. What are you doing? Sykes stammered. He ran up to the bars, but Rachel had already finished locking up. Hey, what is this? Using his well-toned muscles, he shook the door, but it was tightly chained and wouldn't budge an inch. On the other side, Rachel watched him with a cool expression. What, you ask? I have ensured the door is locked for my own safety. This is a prison, you know, Sykes shouted. The prisoners aren't the ones who lock it up. Rachel remained blasé as she explained. I am still an unwed woman. I couldn't bear it if anything untoward were to happen to me. After all, I've heard the guards get their jollies by cavorting with the prisoners when their superiors aren't looking. Still, this is unprecedented. Where did you even get that chain and lock? That is my business and not yours, Rachel said, refusing to dignify his question with an answer. Sykes and the guard were speechless. Although they'd lock her in, it was as if she had shut herself up in there. Well, what should we do? Asked the prison guard. Sykes shook his head. Don't ask me. Well, what are you going to do? Rachel interjected. No. Don't you say that, Sykes snapped. No. Given that this directly affects me, I have every right to speak, don't I? Rachel countered, her tone serious. When you put it that way, I suppose you have a point. Well, what's it gonna be? Come on, hurry up. How about an opinion? Sykes, who wasn't used to thinking about anything particularly difficult, broke under Rachel's pressure and started to panic. Didn't I ask you what is going to be? She continued. Come on, out with it. Now, 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 now. Stop. Don't rush me, okay? Uh, what do I even do about this? As he had more brawn than brains, Sykes couldn't keep up. He could only think of one thing to do. First, I'll report this to the prince. The son of the captain of the guard practically fell over himself on his way out of the dungeon, racing back to the party to call the prince. That's the end of chapter 2. I'm going to switch the background noise, and take a quick breather. I also noticed that my bots are not running on their timers, so let me see if I can trigger them. Okay, there we go. Because sometimes chat is just super quiet and has nothing to say except to listen. And I want to let you guys know that there are commands with Nightbot. There's also a Fairy Ring Discord, and there are also some voice-only redeems that you can get with your channel points. And the reminder that, and this is for every single Twitch streamer, it's September, so if you get a sub, this does not count for gifting a sub until the end of the month. If you get a sub, especially for multiple months, you do get a discount. So I just used that the other day to get a 6-month subscription to a different streamer. Okay. One last hydrate. The young lady renovates the prison. Actually, I keep needing to make additional things. Okay, so like I said before, the last time I streamed, my voice was being drowned out entirely by the rain, and I did not even notice until after the fact. So if it happens to be too loud, please let me know. Please, please, please. I want you to be able to hear the story rather than the background. Okay. In the gaudy banquet hall, Elliot and his hangers-on were enjoying yet another loud toast as they ignored all the people around them speaking in hushed voices. Oh, this is delightful, Elliot exclaimed. Margaret congratulated him. You've finally done it, Your Highness. Yes, finally. I've brought that horrible woman to account for her crimes. Margaret, I thank you for your help. Oh no, I didn't do anything. The people watching all hooted. The mood had turned romantic, and Elliot and Margaret no longer cared who saw them. Their faces drew closer, and then, Your Highness! A well built young man raced into the hall. Sykes, you have the worst timing, Elliot scoffed, glaring at the captain of the guard's son. Sykes grabbed Elliot's arm. We have an emergency. Please, come at once. Hey, what is this about? Panicking, Sykes began to drag Elliot away. He pulled the prince through the crowd, looking a bit like a jilted ex abducting the bride in the middle of her wedding. Before he could chastise Sykes for this indignity, Elliot needed to calm him down or else he was going to get hurt. He slapped the hand Sykes was using to grip his arm and yelled, Stop pulling. Your grip is too tight and it hurts. Oh, sorry. Sykes hurriedly let go. Elliot thought he could finally ask what was the matter, but Sykes wasn't giving up. Now, please, come this way. Huh? Hey, stop it. Sykes scooped Elliot up in his arms, carrying him like a princess, and ran off at a speed that would put a horse to shame. The people left behind began whispering immediately. Sykes just took Prince Elliot. What does that mean? Margaret asked, cocking her head. Oh goodness, does this mean that his true love is Lord Abigail? No. Oh, ad break. Okay. Let's chill until ad break's over. Maybe I'll change my pose. Be like, hmm. What kind of pose should I change into? Welcome back from ad break. I'm going to change into a different pose really quick. Maybe something a little more fun. Okay, maybe not something fun. Let's do something. Okay. Oh. Doesn't matter. You can't see that far down. That's okay. So, the Sykes, not the Sykes just ran off with Prince Elliot in a princess carry. No, from the way things were just now. Wait, is our haughty prince the bottom? We'll have to let everyone know who couldn't make it here today. The young ladies, watching from a distance, continued to spread important information that could affect Elliot's position. They're saying that the prince is a bottom. By the time Sykes found Elliot and pulled him off to the dungeon, using methods he never should have performed in public. The situation had progressed, which is to say, it had gotten even worse. For goodness sake, what has Rachel done Elliot, who had been grumbling the whole way, was dumbstruck. Sykes had thought was prepared, but even he was speechless at what he saw now. It was far beyond anything he'd imagined. The prison had been completely transformed in 30 minutes. The dungeon was a large square room divided into by iron bars. In front of the bars was a room for the prison guards to stand by and monitor, and at one end of the wall there was a staircase made of the same stone as the rest of the room. The only furniture was a simple table and chair. There was no need for more because interrogations were carried out at the Royal Guard's office. Likewise, palace servants brought the inmates' meals from the kitchens, so there was no cooking equipment either. Behind the bars was the back room, which was what everyone called the dungeon. This was where the prisoners were kept. The interior consisted of stone walls, a stone floor, and a stone ceiling, the same as the front room. There was a toilet and a shower in the corner, as well as a sink. The iron bars were the only thing separating the back room from the front room, so essentially, it was one big room. Being a dungeon, it was largely underground. Only a number of long, thin windows high up on the wall let in light and fresh air. They were designed to look like vents that went under the floor when viewed from the outside, and they were, of course, barred. They were the only source of light in the room, so without a lamp or a candle, the dungeon was gloomy even in the middle of the day. The Gungeon. I'm thinking of that video game. That game of, was it Enter the Gungeon? Let me hydrate. Quality of life in this dreary place depended on the position of the person detained and of the magnanimity. I'll get it. Magnanimity of whoever put them in here. If the prisoner needed special consideration, or if the person who jailed them was feeling merciful, they could lead a reasonably civilized life here. They might receive furniture and carpets, tables and chairs, and a divider to go around the toilet and shower so no one could see them. If they were meant to suffer, or if the person who was in charge was cruel by nature, the prisoner would receive none of those things. They would huddle on the bare stone, shivering in the cold and eating food off trays left on the floor. Every time they bathed or defecated, they would be in full sight of the guard. These conditions would make most people shudder, even more so if they were to be detained here. Yet, most of this was nothing more than urban legend. These days, it was almost unthinkable to use the dungeon at all. The treatment of prisoners had become much more humane, and those who were due some consideration were instead locked in inescapable guest rooms where they were kept under close surveillance. As for petty criminals, there was no need to imprison them in the royal palace in the first place. There was a perfectly good prison on the outskirts of the city. They could go along there with the commoners. This dungeon had been built a long, long time ago when treason and conspiracies were a fact of life, in order to torment those of influence who'd fallen from power. Now, after such a long time of peace, the only nobles or courtiers would be imprisoned here, and only the ones who were to be treated worse than ordinary prisoners, making the existence of this place rather contradictory. Rachel Ferguson was just the sort of person who fit those conditions. She was the daughter of a duke, but having incurred the prince's wrath, she was expected to suffer horribly. There just weren't people like that these days. She was a rare specimen. As for whether Prince Elliot had thought that deeply about it, he did not. He just wanted to stick Rachel in an awful place and bully her for picking on his darling Margaret. It never occurred to him what the living situation in here might be like. The prince had only thought that if he imprisoned Rachel in a way that was humiliating for any noble, she would kowtow before Margaret and beg for forgiveness, and he wouldn't be unwilling to grant it. That was as far as his thoughts had gone. So this prince is an idiot. He is a very, very big idiot. Let's see. I'm going to put this in the chat. Just because Nightbot hasn't triggered yet. I have a Discord with Gwen. We talk about a lot of random stuff in there. So I'm just kind of pointing it out. If you're new to the stream, I have some redeems. They take channel point. If you want some good boys or girls, who's a good boy? Who's a good girl? If you want that kind of thing, you can always redeem it. Okay. This guy. I'm going to scream at Discord. Let me turn it off. We don't want any messages. Okay. Oh, I could have just gone on streamer mode. Aha. That's okay. Back to the story. Okay. In fact, while he was flirting with Margaret after expelling Rachel from polite society. Oh, Nox. Oh, you're such a good girl. Oh, who's a good girl? Oh, wait. Sorry, I defaulted to cutie. Oh, who's a good girl, Nox? You are. You're a good girl. Yes, you are. The resident dog was not happy about that. He's a very jealous boy. He's giving me an unhappy look.
Cal underscore Saint underscore Lee underscore 22 just subscribed for 4 months.
Thanks for the resubscribe, cow. Oh, the cute fox wants some. The cute fox wants some attention. Would Nox like some attention? Oh, does Nox want a belly rub? Oh, who's your good girl? Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You're a good girl. Yes, you are. Yeah. I can't help it when I think. Okay, okay. How are you doing, Cal? You doing house husband things? Wait a second. I know what time it is over there. Shouldn't you be in bed? I think it's like, what, 3, 4 o'clock? I don't know how you all stay up so late. Once it hits 10 o'clock,
Yo on the rip just
ah,
subscribed
no,
for
no, no.
2 months. Yeehaw.
Thank you for the resubscribe. Day. Yeehaw. Look, I'm a professional. I have multiple alerts on my screen. I did not know I had another one. That was tiny though. Okay, I'll fix that later. I'm gonna get distracted. I'm already distracted. Yeah, I had 3 before because I'm great like that. I wanted to make sure that everybody saw what was going on. All y'all are sleep gremlins. It's okay though. At least you're keeping me company. That's the most important thing. I appreciate. Uh, okay, back to the story. So the story is so a villainess got in trouble with the band of guys, love interest because she was supposedly picking on the heroine, and now she's in a dungeon and everybody is very confused as to why she's enjoying her time in the dungeon instead of being horrible and miserable. Okay. Inside the dungeon, the Duke's daughter was relaxing on the floor. She should have been sitting on stone tile, but instead she sat on a throw rug with geometrical designs on it. The formerly exposed toilet and shower area now had a flowery curtain hanging around it. On top of the throw rug was a comfy, cushioned sofa that could have dragged even a sage down into a life of sloth. She moved to it and lay there reading a book. Of course, next to her was a light bright enough to read by. The inmate who had just arrived today had already changed out of her evening dress into something more simple and casual. She had been thrown in there with only what she was wearing at the time, so how was she able to change? Where did she get the furniture? It was impossible. Everything about the scene was impossible. On the other side of those bars was a dungeon. It had to be. Yet the bare stone walls now held a comfortable living space. As all who were present stared speechless at this incomprehensible scene, the young lady appeared to notice something and sat up. Hmm? Rachel resolutely ignored everyone on the other side of the bars as she lifted the kettle from atop her alcohol lamp and poured the boiling water into a teapot.
13 just rated with 35 votes.
Guilty Thorn, thank you for the raid again. Welcome, everybody. Oh no,
It ruined it is now following.
did I ruin it? Did I ruin? Thank you for following. Let's get you a shout out. Thank you, thank you.
Condor Cena 777 is now following.
Thank you for the follow. Oh God. You guys are just assaulting me right now.
An alien
The
is now
stream
following.
goes well. We're reading a light novel about um, a villainess who's been thrown into a dungeon. And she is absolutely enjoying her time in the dungeon, which her the people who wanted her in there do not want. Everybody's very confused. How was your stream? What'd you do this time? Ooh. Love me some Asmer. Well, thank you for raiding. If you have some needs to go take care of, please, please, please go take care of yourself. Hydrate, go rest, go have fun. I don't know, but maybe eat, because I know VTubers always forget to eat. I mean, I'm kind of looking at my food that I should have eaten, but I forgot to eat it. It happens. Sometimes streaming is more fun. So I'm a Cantha Fae. I'm a fairy. And right now I'm just doing Wednesday streams, doing Asmer, reading mostly. I like to read some really weird stuff at times. Yes, go get yourself food. If it's late, oh my gosh. I hate having to find a place that's open late at night. It is such a struggle. Exactly. It's so easy to just, you hyper focus, right? Especially when reading or like doing an activity and you just don't want to stop. That's that's why I kind of make sure to hydrate every couple paragraphs. Yep. We're gonna hyper focus and suddenly it's 3 hours later. Oh, that feeling. Or you get into a really good game and suddenly it's 6 hours. Like with any kind of building game. Oh my gosh, I do that with Factorio. The times that I have played that. Factorio, The Sims. Mm-hmm. When you have so many enemies distracting you and then after the battle you're like, oh no. What? I should have gone to the bathroom like hours ago. Well, good thing I have a pee bottle. Everybody needs a pee bottle for their gaming sessions. Yeah. Let's see. Nightbot decided to work. Minecraft is absolutely the worst for that. I get that when I have mods. I love having uh, any kind of building mods, and suddenly it's nighttime. Suddenly it's the next day. It, I enjoy it. It's nice to be able to have that much time to do one thing and only one thing and not have to worry about anything else. Stardew Valley, Rune Factory, Harvest Moon. Yep, I get it. So much fun. Okay. I promise I'm going to get back to reading. Let me take a quick sip. As all who were present stared speechless at this incomprehensible scene, the young lady appeared to notice something and sat up. Hmm? Rachel resolutely ignored everyone on the other side of the bars as she lifted the kettle from atop her alcohol lamp and poured the boiling water into a teapot. The scent of black tea seemed out of place, wafting through a dreary jail cell. Mmm. Rachel smiled in satisfaction as she took a whiff. Elliot's jaw dropped even further at the absurdity of a tea set inside the prison. Sykes and the prison guard looked at each other, but not a word was spoken. At least 5 seconds passed before the prince snapped back to his senses, grabbing the iron bars. You, where did you get that? I provided it for myself. It puts no strain on the treasury. Oh, let me go back. So thank you for the follow, everyone. I missed Condorcito777, Nanalia, and Eddie E. Thank you, thank you. That's not the problem. These are my personal effects. You have no right to complain about them. I said, that's not the problem, the prince repeated, even louder this time. He ground his teeth, angry that they were just talking at each other. Where did you get all of that stuff in there? Rachel looked around as if there was something missing, then opened one of the wooden boxes and took out some tea biscuits. It was one of the wooden boxes that were supposedly no longer needed. Yes, they were the very same boxes that had been there before Rachel was thrown in. That's how she did it? Sykes shouted. What? Elliot barked. The prison guard explained what had happened to the confused prince. Now that Elliot knew how the trick had worked, he started to get dizzy as he watched his ex-fiancée happily nibble on cookies and sip black tea. You're telling me she saw this coming and brought her family's siege supplies in here? The prince muttered to himself, shocked. My people brought them here for me. To be precise, Rachel replied, unconcerned. Well, as you can see, I was prepared for this eventuality. Ignoring the speechless prince, Rachel opened her book to the place she had bookmarked and resumed reading. Everyone recognized Rachel Ferguson's beauty, yet she had a strange lack of presence, to the point where people would forget she was attending a reception alongside the prince. Her delicate features showed little emotion, and she basically never spoke or expressed an opinion. Even when she was asked to venture one, she would agree with whatever the prince had said. The way she acted like the prince's shadow made her a convenient target, and her rivals for Elliot's affections often attacked her for lacking flair, saying that she didn't deserve him. She was an unobtrusive accessory to the prince's radiant beauty, an attractive fiancé who stayed out of the way. With no sense of self, her most endearing quality was how she reservedly supported the prince. It was kind of why he found her dull. Elliot had assumed that because she was that kind of woman, she wouldn't dare push back against his condemnation, which was why he'd done it in such a public venue. But now Elliot was perplexed. Who was this woman doing as she pleased in this ridiculous place? All right, end of chapter. This is the last chapter for the quick look at the novel. Let me hydrate really quick. Just as a reminder, I have some redeems if you have channel points. Down at the bottom. Oh, ad break. I'll wait for the ad break to be over. I still really appreciate Twitch telling that there's an ad coming up. Okay, let me change my music a little bit. Music. So this book is called, I have it in the bottom right-hand corner for reference. Yep, Prison Life is Easy for a Villainess. So there's also a manga that accompanies this. Or, yes, that seems correct. I think this came out first and then the manga came out. So if you want a more visual story, you can go to the manga. Oh, let me grab my boil real quick. Because he's just skittering around. He's making clicky clacks. Okay. Alright, the last chapter. The Duke realizes the situation. Duke Ferguson received word that the prince had terminated his engagement to Rachel at a party attended by many of the young members of the court. The situation was unbelievable, and as the head of a ducal house, he was preparing to make an emergency visit to the palace. He had sent his retainers out to gather information to help him grasp the situation. Sorry, this is why you don't try to do multiple things at once. There we go. As the Duke panicked, his men came back one after another with bad news. Are you certain that the prince broke off his engagement with Rachel at tonight's party? The Duke asked. Yes, sir. We were able to confirm that with multiple sources. She was restrained in the middle of the hall as he announced the annulment. The Duke clutched his head. That fool of a prince. I'm sure he wanted to make a spectacle of it, but he doesn't realize that wasn't the place for it. This isn't a matter of who's in the wrong, it's just common sense. The Duke had already concluded that the prince was ruined. If you viewed the situation logically, it was plain to see that the way he theatrically broke off their betrothal, completely disregarding proper manners and customs, would become a problem once the king stepped in to resolve things. Naturally, the Duke was upset that his daughter's engagement had been broken without a word to him about it first. But, in all honesty, he had a bigger problem now. He slammed his hands down on his desk. That vacuous moron. He's gone and awakened the devil child. Yes, you heard that correctly. The devil child. The Duke's eldest daughter, Rachel, had been pretty from a young age, and her reserved behavior and ephemeral appearance had led other houses to assume that she was an introverted and quiet beauty. Not knowing any better, the Duke and Duchess had been incredibly proud of her. They believed wholeheartedly that their daughter was wonderful. They couldn't have been more wrong. As their daughter grew, and they gradually came to see who she was, the Duke and Duchess's smiles became more strained. She acted worse than the average bully. When a group of bullies chased her up a tree, she threw a beehive at them. Then, when an older boy came to back them up, she clobbered him with a rolling pin she'd been hiding. Once that was done, she pushed the ringleader into a pond for revenge. Hearing the ruckus, the Duke rushed to investigate, and he spotted her throwing rocks at the boy as he tried to get to shore. When he stopped her, she looked at him and, with a completely serious expression, said, "Don't worry. If I keep throwing rocks at him, he won't float to the surface for a while." It was at this moment that the Duke first thought there was a high probability that his beloved daughter was a psychopath. In order to dissuade her, the Duke pointed out the difficulty of piling rocks on top of an object underwater, and he explained how the resistance of the water as they sank and the irregular shape of the rocks would make it hard to determine their course. It was evident from this exchange that the Duke was panicking a bit. His daughter, eyes sparkling, exclaimed, "That's amazing, father." But in all honesty, this was the first time that her praise went in one ear and out the other. Once her parents realized how warped Rachel was, they put a touching amount of effort into making sure she developed a degree of sociability commensurate with her good looks by the time she was grown. The Duke felt that after he'd explained that manners and morals were like the rules of a game, and that order existed so that everybody had a fair chance to play, she grew into their ideal daughter. But the Duke and the Duchess never forgot. If Rachel were to ever stop thinking that she had to follow the rules, they had no idea what their daughter might do. That was why they focused so heavily on giving her the moral education necessary for a child of nobility. And despite their every contingency, this termination of her engagement, they never saw it coming. The Duke knew better than anyone what had just happened. Prince Elliot, the damned fool, had just gone and upended the chessboard. Yeah, I think she might be a psychopath, but it's okay. It makes her charming. As the Duke barked orders, driven by the need to get ahead of this as soon as possible, a servant rushed into the room out of breath. We've received more details. Has there been any movement? The Duke asked. The retainer, blue in the face, began his report. The Duke, stressed to the max, listened intently. I'll explain in detail. The young lady accepted His Highness's announcement without any change in expression, and she remained quiet as she was restrained and marched off to the dungeon. I agree. It's always the soft-spoken ones that you gotta watch out for. The Duke froze for a moment before slumping into his chair like he'd collapsed. The butler rushed to his side. The Duke stared absently into space for a while, then mumbled, "The prince. He's done for." The butler, who was well acquainted with Rachel's upbringing, nodded gravely and said, "Yes, sir." If Rachel had already decided to act, it was out of the Duke's hands. He had no choice but to let her do as she pleased and wait until she'd blown off some steam. No longer in a rush, the Duke sat in front of his desk and slowly put tobacco into his pipe. "I think I'll have a smoke," he told himself. "Yes, that's what I'll do, because there's nothing else I can do." The Duke was filled with a great many emotions as he took a puff and exhaled. Then he remembered something. Still, George must have been at the party. What is he doing now? George would have been close to the prince as one of his hangers-ons. As a reference, George is the brother to Rachel, and one of the guys who basically condemned Rachel. If George had acted to mediate this issue or reported to the Duke before things developed to this point, this uproar could have been dealt with before it got out of hand. As the Duke let out an exhausted sigh, the servant who'd brought the reports hesitantly delivered a follow-up about George. "Well, you see, it seems the young master is as infatuated with the Baroness's daughter, who was at the center of this drama, as His Highness and the others. He was an active participant in the condemnation of her." The Duke and the butler looked at one another. George, is a dead man. Yes, sir. How, after 16 years of living with his sister, could that imbecile not understand something so simple? George had to have seen that Rachel was running wild. So what was he thinking? If Rachel's anger toward her brother were to explode, the Duke had no intention of defending his son and heir. That could get him caught in the crossfire. The Duke valued his own hide far more than that of the idiot son who ruined everything. Dad is very smart. There's a page break. Let me take a hydrate. Let me take a hydrate and also plug my tracking in. There we go. Yes, a lot of dumb people. I like how the dad is just trying to save his own butt. As the Duke looked up at the ceiling and took a puff from his pipe, there was a ruckus in the hall, and his wife raced into the room. "Oh, Dan! Issaria!" The Duke hurried to his feet as his stumbling wife leapt into his arms. "It's Rachel. She's... I know. I was just listening to the reports. Try to be strong." The Duchess had completely lost her mind, and she continued shouting with tears in her eyes. "But, darling, if she let them escort her away, then she plans to kill him. The future of our house and His Majesty's life are all about to shatter." "It's going to be fine. Rachel is 17 now. She's not a child. She's old enough to make adult decisions." The Duke tried to console his sobbing wife with words he didn't believe. However, she took no comfort in them. "Dan, you don't understand. When she was just a little girl, I caught her singing Lizzie Borden while gleefully swinging an axe." Oh my. So Lizzie Borden, I just wanted to look this up really quickly. She was tried for the axe murders of her parents. Yeah, maybe something to be a little scared of. Calm yourself, Issaria. It's fine. It's going to be fine. Rachel has grown into a proper young lady in the last 10 years. These days, we don't have to worry about her bludgeoning His Highness to death with a blunt instrument. I'm sure she'll use hard to prosecute methods to destroy his psyche. Really? Is Rachel really going to be okay? She might well burn the capital to the ground to kill him. Believe in your daughter, Issaria. She is smart and well educated. She'd never do something stupid that would take her down with him. I'm sure she'll employ methods that leave no trace to absolutely demolish him. What was his daughter thinking right now? Was he sure she wouldn't resort to a weapon? The Duke had no idea. He didn't even know how to resolve the situation. All he could do at this junction was sigh. A number of the servants had gathered around the two of them, but they'd all been with the family far too long to poke at the current situation. Rachel's a girl boss. I love Rachel. I love how she's being described. She's gonna teach everybody a lesson. Pardon me. As the Duke was rubbing his wife's back comfortingly, a person with a voice so utterly calm it seemed out of place in this nervous excitement sought permission to enter the room. Looking to see who it was, the Duke found Rachel's personal maid and childhood friend, Sophia, bowing her head. Oh, Sophia, your timing is perfect. Have you heard about Rachel? Yes, of course. I will be heading to the government office to lodge an immediate complaint. You will be accompanying me, so get ready. You'll bring Rachel the things she'll need while she's in prison. If they refuse, use my name to make them let you through. Whatever else they were going to do, they needed to ensure that Rachel, who had been taken from the party straight to the dungeon, had a change of clothes and other necessities. He thought it would be fastest to have Sophia, who knew Rachel best, make the preparations. However, let me take a sip. However, Sophia said, "No, that's already taken care of." You're already prepared? I should have expected no less from you. Yes, the preparations have been made, and her things have already been delivered. I see. You work fast. Wait, already delivered? When he looked at Sophia, who just nonchalantly said something he couldn't, possibly ignored, the ashen-haired girl and the two other maids behind her nodded. Oh yeah, good idea to stretch. No shrimping. Thank you for the reminder. Like I said, VTubers are not very good at taking care of themselves. The young mistress discovered in advance that her engagement was to end tonight. That is why, with her direction, we have already prepared the food and necessities that she will need for the next 3 months and delivered them to the dungeon. Unlike Rachel, who could show a surprising amount of expression in private, Sophia wore a steel mask. She delivered shocking facts as if she were merely relating common sense without so much as batting an eyelash. Huh? The Duke murmured. All sorts of doubts raced through his mind as he pressed a hand to his forehead. Hold on. She knew in advance? Why would Rachel deliberately refrain from preventing it? And I know it's only for one person, but how did you carry enough supplies to live on for 3 months into the castle? She was unsure if he would truly go through with it, Sophia explained. But when she learned of his plans to scrap the engagement, the young mistress said, "So you're telling me I can be rid of that idiot in a way that leaves him responsible for it, and I can get a vacation?" Splendid. Sophia's tone had clearly said, "Why ask something so obvious?" The Duke sighed. "Rachel." Also, ever since her engagement to the prince was decided, we, the Black Cats of the Dark Night, have been inserting ourselves in key positions at the palace. As long as we know in advance that an event like this is coming, our forces can easily sneak in supplies under the guise of their official duties. Rachel, what exactly are you trying to do? The Duke was relieved to learn that his daughter was in a more even state of mind than he'd feared. But at the same time, he shuddered with terror as he realized that his daughter's darkness ran deeper than he'd ever suspected. How was there an intelligence organization operating out of his house without him knowing? And how were they so ingrained in the palace that they had free reign to bring in full carts of supplies? That was more than what the spy networks of some nations could manage. If Rachel had taken it that far, it would be easy for her to assassinate one little prince, right? Thoughts like these raced through the Duke's head. He decided to give up on thinking. Anyways, I'll go to the office, go to the government office and lodge that complaint, he said. Take care, Sophia called after him. And that's actually the end of part 1. Actually, I think I might get this book and continue reading it just because I love Rachel. I love how unhinged she is. She doesn't want to get her hands dirty. She wants to let the prince take care of himself. Oh my goodness. And holy moly, I just realized how many parts there are. Yeah, I think she's probably like, that's going to be way too much effort. I don't want to have to deal with that. So that was 4 chapters in part 1. Part 1, there are 12 parts in a volume. Wait, let me math. So what I say, 4 chapters in a part.
Skinless underscore snake is now
Thank you for the follow, Skinless Snake. No, actually, I don't think it is. Let me double check. Okay, no. So it's a 2-volume series. So that's volume 1 has 48 chapters. Yes, 48 chapters, yeah. So, yeah, and thankfully it is complete. Volume 2 says it's the conclusion of her vacation, quote unquote. Yeah, if you would like to read it yourself, it's available on J Novel Club. I'm not sponsored. I just found a bunch of things to read through there. And I love, love these kind of stories. Let's see, how much is it? that's not bad. You know, let me take a look really quick. I bet you there is a physical version. I would be really surprised if there wasn't. Or maybe it's one of those things that's only available in Japan. Sad face. I'm taking a look at Bookwalker. Oh, yeah, it might be one of those things. Because I'm not seeing any physical copies, at least easily available. So, I had some other books that I was hoping to read the first part of, but sound now looking at these books compared to the book we just read, they kind of come up a little short. Yeah, $8 on Kindle for the first ebook. And there's only 2 books, so that's not too bad. That's pretty comparable. Yeah, that's mm-hmm. Oh no, I was going to try to read a book that's not even out yet. Oops. That's okay. Yeah, I'm probably going to. I'm thinking about streaming it through the J Novel Club. Ugh. But I do have a coupon for Amazon. Oh, ad time. Okay. Let me let me start winding down a little bit. So I think what I'm going to do from now on, I I have a kind of schedule that I'm going to follow. I'm focusing on, for the most part, shorter books or stories that could be done in one sitting. So I have like a bunch of short stories for Halloween. I got some more short stories. Actually, these are all short stories. And that's what I'm going to be doing from now on because it's kind of hard to keep a track of what's going on, especially when I only stream once a week. Maybe I'll do like a gorilla stream another time. So we'll see. But I think I will end up continuing this one. I like really silly stuff like that. Okay. So I only stream for about 2 hours just because I have a time constraint. So it's almost time for me to hand you all off to another person. I don't mm, I don't have any. Thank you, Nanalia. It makes me happy that you're looking forward to it. Let me find another ASMR person. Maybe another VTuber. Clam Lady does not need my help. Reddit scary stories. Okay. I see I see this person. Let me let me get a feel for their vibe really quick. I'm going to turn off the audio. Cuz this guy, girl, this person is reading scary stories. Um Okay, that's a very different feel. I'm crying. Let's take a look. She has a cute model. I usually don't have a problem with finding someone to raid. I'm surprised I'm having trouble today. Let's see. This I promise I will find someone. Give me a moment. And I'm not going to hand you off to Hangugo because I assume most of you probably do not know Korean. Right. And also just trying to do a vibe check and make sure that I'm not sending you all to someone who suddenly starts screaming, because that's the worst. It just ruins the vibe. Okay, I found someone. Yay! Okay, so she's doing. I'm gonna send us over to Hybris VT. So let's see if we can rate her. So I just wanted to say thank you again for joining me today, and thank you for listening to this story about this villainess who enjoys staying in prison. And thank you for the follow JStar account number 15. I hope you all have a wonderful night, day, time zone, wherever you are. We'll continue the read later. So I hope you enjoy Hibis VT. Have a good evening, all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm sorry. Maybe next time. Next time. Usually I'm on till 9 o'clock. I just started early today. Sorry. Story time's over. It's okay. It's okay. Uh... Oh, don't cry. Don't cry, baby. Well, I'm gonna send you off to. It's okay, sweetie. There's always next time. All right, I'm gonna send you off now. Wait, did my I've never had a timeout before. All right. Good night, everyone.